How's it going, everybody? I hope you're having a good day. If you've ever heard the expression colder than a well digger's ass, that pretty much sums up where we are right now. We've got winds of 32 miles an hour. We've got wind chills of -7. It's a good day to be inside. Have that third or fourth cup of coffee, move a little bit slower, maybe take some time, do some reflection. Have you ever found yourself in exactly the right place at the right time? Everything seems to move along on its own, and all you've got to do is go along for the ride. And on the other hand, have you ever just jumped in and started doing shit because it seemed like a good idea and everything falls apart because maybe you should have waited? Or maybe you did wait and you miss an opportunity because what was called for on your part was action. There's a great quote about this in a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. And I know there's a lot that can be said about Carlos Castaneda, both positive and negative, and I'm not here to do that. What I will say is this. At a very dark point in my life, maybe about 30 years ago, when I was actually at the beginning of my recovery work, even though I didn't know it at the time, I stumbled onto his works and I absolutely devoured them. I read everything the man wrote. And I really learned a lot about the way I came at my life at the time, what my perspective was, and a little bit about why I did the things that I did. And so I'd like to share this quote. And in this quote, Carlos is talking to his teacher, Don Juan, who's instructing him on the importance of waiting, of observing, of knowing when the right moment comes along, and of acting when it does. All of us, whether or not we are warriors, have a cubic centimeter of chance that pops out in front of our eyes from time to time. The difference between an average man and a warrior is that the warrior is aware of this. And one of his tasks is to be alert, deliberately waiting, so that when his cubic centimeter pops out, he has the necessary speed, the prowess to pick it up. A few years after I found this quote, I had one of those cubic centimeters of chance when there was an opportunity to take a job that moved me to New Jersey. And I remember at the time, I was feeling really, really low. And I remember praying one night, if you give me the opportunity to get the hell out of here, I'm going to say yes to it no matter what. 6 months later, that opportunity came and I grabbed it. Here I am today, further along on the road to recovery than I would have been had I stayed in Northeast PA. In fact, I might not even be alive now had I stayed there. And so there's a lot that can be found in this quote, especially as it applies to the process of our emotional recovery. One of the hardest things to do sometimes for those of us who carried a lot of pain for a lot of years is just to sit in that. Sometimes those pains can come as body memories. Sometimes they can come as emotions or stories. And they can get up in our heads and they can start pulling the levers. And pretty soon we act out in the world in some ways that might not be too nice. And then as we start to reflect on those afterwards, we start to beat ourselves up for it. And when we really get good at that, we can start to beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up, and pretty soon we fall right into that death spiral of shame, of guilt, self-persecution. But the sooner we can catch these things, the sooner we can become aware of them. Maybe when they start as a sensation in our bodies. Maybe before they turn into an emotion. Maybe before that emotion becomes a story or an action in the world. If we can really learn to become aware of those things as soon as we can, we can begin to act out into the world in a healthier way. And so that's really the trick. Learning to sit, learning to wait, learning to be aware. Till next time.